Hi guys, welcome back to Nico Talks Hockey. Today I want to go over my top 20 defensemen rankings for 2025. Who are the best defensemen in the NHL and the world? Um, so again, I explained it in my goalie video, but how I look at these rankings and how I make them and how I come to my conclusions is I look at a 3-year sample. So the past 3 seasons encompass all that, and your body of work is those 3 seasons. I can't just include the most previous season because that would be too much of recency bias. But I do say that the most recent season holds the most weight against all the other 3 seasons. So with that said, without further ado, let's get into the top 20. I'll be going from 20 all the way up to 1. Before we get into 20, though, I want to talk about 3 honorable mentions. I can't not say the names of these defensemen because they're so great. They just missed the list. And that is Dougie Hamilton of the New Jersey Devils. Unbelievable defenseman. He just deals with injuries a lot. His defensive game isn't the best, but his offensive game, as a power play quarterback is just phenomenal. Thomas Harley just missed this list. I really like Thomas Harley. He was awesome at the Four Nations. I'm sure he'll be picked for the Olympics. He'll be awesome there. He just misses this list because I don't, the past 3 years are excuse me, are not as better than any of these other defensemen, but fantastic past season, and even the season before it was good too. And then the one of the defensemen that misses this list, just because of his defensive deficiencies, Erik Karlsson. If it was just his offensive game, he'd absolutely be here. Probably top 5. but he's kind of just a black hole at defense. So I really like to look at both your defenseman, your offensive game, and your defensive game. And if you're a defenseman, your defensive game matters a little bit more because, again, that's the name of the game. That's the name of the position. But moving on to number 20, I have Devon Toews of the Colorado Avalanche. I had to put him here. I had to make him, make top 20 because he is such, a modern day defenseman. He is, really, really responsible defensively. He's Kel McCarr's, running mate. But then he also, he chips in. He's doing assists. He's making goals every now and then. That defense pairing of Toews and McCarr is not only one of the best in the NHL, but everyone recognizes that's why they were a tandem together during the Four Nations. And they absolutely will probably be a pairing, come Olympics time as well. Moving on to number 19, I have Shea Theodore of the Vegas Golden Knights. Shea Theodore, I love Shea Theodore. I like to pick him a lot when it comes to fantasy because he's awesome offensively. He's a points king. He just gets so many points for you, goals and assists. And then defensively, he does tend to have, well, not tend to have, but he has his off game here and there. He definitely struggled a bit when the Vegas Golden Knights lost in the playoffs, but this past season. But very often he's on his game, and he looks like a model defenseman where he's got the best of both worlds. He's got the defense and he's got the offense. So, with the news that Alex Pietrangelo will probably never play hockey again, it's so sad. But Shea Theodore is the Vegas' best defenseman. At number 18, I have John Carlson of the Washington Capitals. He's turned back the clock a little, huh? I never really appreciated Carlson enough at his true peak, which was I'd say 3 years ago. I don't know. I just wasn't. I don't think my ball knowledge was there where it should have been. But over the past year or two, I think I've come to really appreciate John Carlson and what he does on the ice. Sure, he's not the best defensively, but he's a number 1 power play quarterback for the Capitals, and he's just so responsible. You can count on him. You will always be able to count on John Carlson to do what you need him to do. And so for that reason, I have him at number 18. At number 17, a defenseman who was probably overrated for just a little bit, and then now I think is pretty underrated. Moritz Seider. Moritz Seider of the Detroit Red Wings, I have a ton of respect for, because he was dealing with a lot of a lot of bad defensemen for a while, and still kind of there in Detroit. Now he's got some help now from Simone Edvinsson, Oli Mata, but Jeff Petrie and Sherratt and Hall, he has to carry that team as a defensive unit for many years now. Not many years, but 3 seasons now. And it's just so impressive. If he had some more help there, if the defense was more, had more depth there, and he didn't have to do everything by himself, I'd have him even higher. I'm sure that everyone would have him higher, because he's awesome, and he's just so young. He's gonna get to higher heights, and I can't wait to see it. At number 16, I have the second best, in my opinion, the second best defensive defenseman in the entire NHL, and that is Chris Tanev. Tanev is a player that every team wants, every organization wants on their team. He will eat pucks for you. He will put his body on the line. Doesn't matter how hard the shot is. Doesn't matter if Victor Hedman stepping up to slap shot, and try and just will that puck into the net. Chris Tanev will be there, putting his face in front of it. He'll do anything for his team, and it's not just the effort. The effort is unbelievable, but it's his defensive mind. He knows where to be, and he's shutting people down, and you can count on him. Just like you can count on John Carlson, you can count on Chris Tanev to do his, be there for his assignment and to defend what he needs to defend. Moving into the top 15. At number 15, I have Gustav Forsling. I found it a little hard to rank Forsling, just because it's kind of somewhat recent, his emergence into an elite defenseman. But so many teams have passed on him, including the Chicago Blackhawks. They kind of gave up on Forsling, but Paul Maurice's system seems to have brought out the absolute best in Forsling. He's turned into an elite shutdown defenseman while also being someone who can run the power play for you. I don't have him higher than 15 just because I think the highs of some of the point totals that some of these other guys can get to are more impressive. But Forsling, 2-time Stanley Cup champion now. And yeah, he's probably he's the best defenseman on the Panthers. He's better than Aaron Ekblad in my opinion. So Forsling deserves to be at number 15. Moving on to number 14, Mikhail Sergachev, I almost said of the Tampa Bay Lightning, of the Utah Mammoth. I loved the trade when it happened for the Mammoth. I thought it was a really good move. Sergachev, when he's not injured, is absolutely capable of being a number 1 defenseman on a team. I don't really know why the Lightning gave up on him. I guess they just were like, okay, well, we can't have 2 people run the number 1 power play, right? Hedman's the number 1 guy. We're going to stick with and believe in Hedman. I guess for good reason, but and they got a nice return back. They got Moser, and they got some more. I forget what the rest of the return is, but still, Sergachev is awesome. He's just a guy who can do it all. He will eat minutes for you. He can be your number 1 defenseman. You just gotta hope he's healthy, right? At number 13, I have his former running mate. I have Victor Hedman. Victor Hedman, for the longest time, I had my number 1 defenseman during the 2020, 2021, 2022. He was still top 3. He's definitely decreased a little bit, but this past season showed that he's still got the offensive chops. Defensively, maybe it's definitely waned, but offensively, he's absolutely there still. Victor Hedman, yeah, he's a bit of an unk now, but he's still got it. Victor Hedman, I still think the world of, and when I'm looking at my own team, the Chicago Blackhawks, I'm hoping that maybe Levshunov or Rinzel, if they can reach anywhere close to the potential that Victor Hedman, if they can reach what Victor Hedman used to be, I think the Hawks are sitting pretty. Number 12, the last 2 players just before reaching the top 10 defensemen in the NHL. I have Jake Sanderson of the Ottawa Senators. Sanderson is very quickly, very in a short time, reached elite status. When he was drafted, I was very high on him. As a prospect, I knew the Senators were getting a good one, but I guess I'm not surprised by him being this good. I'm surprised about how quickly he's turned into this good. Defensemen take generally a lot longer than forwards to really get into their just get it going, get into their prime. I wouldn't say Jake Sanders is in his prime by any means. He's still got heights he hasn't even touched yet. But he's already insane. He's already, potentially Olympic caliber. So hats off to Sanderson. He is one of my favorite defensemen in the game. And the last player I have that is not in the top 10, this may be controversial if you're only thinking about last season, but again, I take a 3-season sample size and I take everything into account, just injuries and everything. So I have Zach Werenski at number 11. Now, if we're just talking about last season, he's number 3. He's the 3rd best defenseman in the entire league if we're just talking last season, but we're not. We're taking a 3-year sample size, and the facts say that Zach Werenski is injured a lot. He's awesome when he's playing. He's so good, but you can't not count injuries. If you didn't count injuries, maybe Mario Lemieux is the number 1 player of all time, but you have to account for it. You have to account for injuries and everything. And it's kind of hard to say, but staying healthy is a bit of a skill. You do the right things. You have to, do the stuff that the team doctors say and take care of your body and do the right work to keep your body healthy. So it's a bit of an art, right? But still, Zach Werenski, when playing, is one of the best defensemen in the entire game. I'm very happy for Columbus that they have him, because it's just that the Columbus Blue Jackets are building something special, and Werenski can finally, see the fruit of his labor. Moving on to number 10, the top 10 defensemen in the entire NHL. At number 10, someone who I had higher before last season. Last season kind of disappointed me, but still definitely a top 10 defenseman. Charlie McAvoy of the Boston Bruins. I love McAvoy. He's one of my favorite defensemen in the game. I love getting him in fantasy. I think he's great, but I think also that he didn't have the best season. I think he contributed a little bit to why Boston struggled. I don't know why he struggled so much. I don't know if it was injuries or what. But I expect a bounce back season from him next year, and he'll probably, go up the rankings when that happens. But at number 10, Charlie McAvoy. Yeah, it's just, there's so much to say about him. He is such a complete defenseman. When I think about defensemen that just play both sides of the game, both offense, defense, he's got the ability to score. He's got the ability to set up plays. He'll shut you down. He's got, the breakout passes. McAvoy has everything. Moving on to number 9, a defenseman who's just only marginally better. I have Miro Heiskanen of the Dallas Stars. Heiskanen, I keep thinking he's going to be in my top 5. And then I look at his point totals, and they're not as flashy or gaudy as I always expect them to be. But nonetheless, Miro Heiskanen is just an elite defenseman. Defensively, there's very few people you want over him. When he's not on your team, when he was injured for Dallas, everyone talked about, then Dallas is going out first round, right? Because that's the presence he brings. That's the value that Miro Heiskanen brings to the game and to his team. So such a valuable defenseman to have. And, there's a reason that a lot of the defensemen are coming up as prospects through the draft. They look at comparisons, like how do you comp these players? And a lot of them are always trying to be comparable to Miro Heiskanen. At number 8, a player that has really grown on me. I don't know why, but like John Carlson, I was just like, oh no, people are overrating him. No, he's very good. Josh Morrissey of the Winnipeg Jets. I think he's an awesome dude, and as a player, I think he's also maybe even cooler. He's absolutely someone you can, put on your quarterback your power play no worries, no question. And he's not a slouch defensively. I think there's better players than him, but the stuff that the point totals that he can get up to, and just he can take over. He can take over the ice. Morrissey looks like an elite winger or center sometimes out there because of the presence he brings. Moving on to number 6, just missing the top 5, and probably the most controversial player, not just in terms of my ranking, but just as a player. How do you rank this person? I have him at number 6. It's Evan Bouchard. Evan Bouchard, I'm not the biggest detractor of him. I'm probably a bit of a glazer of Evan Bouchard. I think that when people criticize him, they're not taking into account. I don't know. They're unfairly criticizing him, I think, a lot of the time. Sure, is he prone to a lot of defensive lapses? Yeah. Does it look sometimes like he's not giving it his all? Potentially. The fact of the matter is, though, is that when you look at his advanced analytics, he's kind of average defensively, so it's not like he's bad or he's a negative influence, on the ice defensively. And then you look at his offense, and he is maybe the best offensive defenseman in the league. It's not, not everyone can do this. People might say like, oh, it's because he's with Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. No, because there's so many defensemen that have been on that number 1 power play unit and can't do anywhere close to what Evan Bouchard does. It's time to put some more respect on Evan Bouchard's name. He just re-upped in Edmonton for forget how long, but he's going to be there for a while. And he gets paid the money that he deserves. At number 5, the top 5 best defensemen in the entire NHL. Number 5, someone who slipped just a little bit. He was in the top 3 last season. Now he's 5th. Roman Josi of the Nashville Predators. I think it's age. I think it's age that's catching up to him a little bit. And the fact that Nashville's a really bad team. But Roman Josi is still the best player, in my opinion, on the Nashville Predators. Philip Forsberg, awesome. UC Saros, awesome. Roman Josi, number 1 player on the Predators. He's still just such a force. I mean, he's such a leader. He gets the points. He gets the goals. He's clutch. He eats so many minutes. Defensively, he's awesome. I know that he had a bit of a down season this past season. But if I'm a betting man, I'm saying that he bounces back slightly for next season. At number 4, just missing the top 3, he had a rough go as well, kind of like Roman Josi. At this past season, he kind of made people doubt him for probably the first time ever in his career. Adam Fox. He didn't have the best 4 nations. People are even questioning, should he go to the Olympics? He should absolutely go to the Olympics. His analytics speak for themselves. Defensively and offensively, he's an absolute force, and he maybe more than these next 3 players, but he can create something out of nothing with no help. It doesn't matter if he's on a team that's like, a lottery team. I would expect him to still be crushing it, analytically and statistically. So Adam Fox I have a ton of respect for, and I think he's one of the best defensemen in the game. But moving on to top 3, there's 2 in here that but there's one that you maybe didn't expect to be this high, and he's probably my, my biggest hot take of the video, I guess. I have Rasmus Dahlin at number 3. Dahlin I'm higher on than most. I know that most people say he's a top 10 defenseman, but I have him at number 3. What he's been able to do in Buffalo, the most depressing team in the league, and I wish I wasn't saying that because I really want Buffalo to do well. But yeah, what he's been able to do with just, there's some good players in Buffalo, but he drives the bus. He drives the bus in Buffalo, and he does it with a poise and calm that is just, it impresses me so much. So Rasmus Dahlin, I think he deserves to, looking at the 3-year sample size, I think more respect needs to go on Dahlin's name. And I don't expect it to stop anytime soon in terms of his ability to dictate what happens on the ice. At number 2 and number 1, we have Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes, but in which order, right? Quinn Hughes won the Norris 2 seasons ago. Cale Makar won it last year. You could argue that, maybe Quinn Hughes deserved it more because of how bad his team was. Cale Makar had more of a, he had a better team around him. But I still say at number 2 is Quinn Hughes. Number 1 is Cale Makar. Quinn Hughes is the second best defenseman in the entire world. And only like 3 seasons ago, I'd say that people definitely didn't have him that high. They were like, well, Jack Hughes is the best Hughes brother, and he's the most talented Hughes brother. And now people are talking about Quinn Hughes as being a top 5 player, not just defenseman, but forward, a player, top 5 player in the NHL. And for good reason. Quinn Hughes, we're talking about, I was talking about Rasmus Dahlin's ability to dictate what happens on the ice and kind of put the entire team on your back in any situation. It could be, any game in the regular season, or it could be Game 7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Quinn Hughes will be there at the front and center. Quinn Hughes is unbelievable, and his progression to turn into an unbelievably elite defenseman has been remarkable to see, and it's very cool. I wish Vancouver a ton of success. I really want them to, make the playoffs next season, but that will not happen unless Quinn Hughes is there, because he is the best player in Vancouver. At number 1, Cale Makar. Cale Makar is the best defenseman on planet Earth, and he's been that way for the past 3 seasons. There's been no change. Past 3 seasons, Cale Makar has been number 1. And yes, Quinn Hughes has maybe had a season where he's been better, but overall, if we're talking about just a larger sample size than just 1 season, it's Cale Makar. And I don't think it should be controversial to say that, because Cale Makar, he's young. At the age that he's at, what he's doing in Colorado is so unbelievably impressive. And there's no signs of him stopping anytime soon. Yes, he's got Nathan MacKinnon there, and yes, the analytics say that MacKinnon boosts him at least a little, but no, Cale Makar is, without a doubt, in my eyes, the best defenseman in the entire league and on this planet. So yeah, that's my top 20 list of defensemen in the NHL. Let me know what you think in the comments. What did I get wrong? Why do I have no ball knowledge? Or let me know if you liked it and you thought that maybe some of these surprise picks were good. After looking at this list, I've realized that I missed number 7. I didn't mention Jacob Slavin. I went from Josh Morrissey and I went up to Evan Bouchard. So I missed Jacob Slavin. I cannot end this video without talking about Jacob Slavin. Jacob Slavin is the best defensive defenseman in the entire league. If you were in the comments, you were like, where's Jacob Slavin? I'm sorry, I just missed it when I was looking at my list. But no, Jacob Slavin absolutely deserves the flowers, all the flowers, because he's the best defensive defenseman in the league. In every situation, whether it's regular season, playoffs, 4 nations, he's going to be in the Olympics, he'll be great there. He is the person I most want on the ice if I'm trying to prevent a goal. So yeah, I'm sorry I missed you, Slavin. You didn't deserve that. But yes, that is officially my top 20 list of defensemen. Thank you so much for watching. If you could like and subscribe, that would mean a ton to me. I'll be coming out with more of these rankings. I'm going to go through wingers and centers and coaches and GMs. And thank you so much for continuing to watch. It means a ton to me. I will see you in the next video.